The first snow of the season fell on Chicago like a whispered promise, soft flakes drifting past the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse on the 60th floor. Marcus Blackwood stood with his hands in his pockets, watching the city transform below. 3 years. 3 years since Sarah's aneurysm had stolen her mid-laugh at their kitchen table, the sound of her joy cut short so abruptly he sometimes still heard the echo in empty rooms. Behind him, Tyler's footsteps approached with the particular rhythm of an 8-year-old, trying to be quiet and failing spectacularly. The boy appeared at Marcus's elbow, already dressed in the small navy suit Marcus had bought for exactly these occasions. Tyler pressed his nose against the glass, breath fogging a small circle. "Maybe you'll meet someone pretty like Mommy today." The words landed like stones in still water, ripples spreading outward through Marcus's chest. He placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "It's just Brian's wedding, buddy. We're there to celebrate him and Jennifer. But Mrs. Patterson says you need to stop being sad." Marcus checked his watch, the Patek Philippe Sarah had given him for their 5th anniversary, still keeping perfect time. "Go grab your coat. The car's waiting." Across the city, in a 2-bedroom apartment on the south side, where the radiator clanged and hissed, Emma Hayes knelt before 3 identical faces arranged in a row on the worn sofa. Lily, Rose, and Ivy sat in matching pink dresses Emma had spent 2 nights altering from a thrift store find. "Remember the rules." Emma's voice carried the particular firmness of a mother who'd learned early that triplets required military precision. "Stay together. No wandering." "We know, Mama." Lily touched the ribbon in her hair with reverent fingers. Ivy asked the question Emma had been dreading. "Why can't we get a babysitter like other kids?" Because babysitters cost $40, and Emma had $12 until Friday's paycheck. Because she couldn't afford to turn down the networking opportunity this wedding represented. Because I want you with me. Emma helped Ivy into her coat, sleeves already too short. And because Jennifer specifically invited you. The bus ride took 40 minutes through neighborhoods that grew progressively more expensive. The hotel rose before them like a monument to a different world, all gleaming glass and doormen in uniforms. Emma straightened her spine, lifted her chin. She belonged here, even if her dress came from a thrift store. The ballroom transformed late afternoon light into something golden, chandeliers casting intricate shadows across white tablecloths. Marcus settled Tyler at table 12, chosen strategically near the exit. 2 hours, maybe 3, he could be home by 8. Emma found table 27 in the back corner, practically behind a decorative column. The seating card read, "Emma Hayes and guests," in elegant calligraphy that somehow made the placement feel even more deliberate. The ceremony began with strings and promises that made Marcus's jaw clench. For better or worse, until death do us part. Death had parted them far too soon. At table 27, the girls stayed silent, absorbing everything. Emma watched them instead of the ceremony, memorizing their wonder. The reception exploded into motion, servers materializing with champagne, the DJ announcing the wedding party. Marcus accepted scotch from a passing tray, settled deeper into his chair. Tyler had already abandoned him for the kids' area. Lily noticed him first. Her eyes tracked across the ballroom with systematic precision, cataloging single adults, searching for something specific. She elbowed Rose, who elbowed Ivy, and suddenly all 3 were staring at table 12, where a man sat alone, watching the celebration with the expression of someone attending his own funeral. They conferred in whispers, heads bent together. Emma, caught in conversation with another nurse, didn't notice when they slipped from their chairs. Marcus saw them coming, 3 identical girls moving with synchronized purpose. They arranged themselves before him in a perfect line, hands clasped, faces serious as mourners. The one on the left spoke first. "Excuse me, mister. We need your help with something important." Marcus set down his scotch. "Are you lost? Should I help you find your parents?" "We're not lost. We found you on purpose." The middle girl's chin lifted. "We've been looking for someone exactly like you," the right girl finished. "And you're perfect." "Perfect for what?" The girls leaned forward as one. Their voices dropped to urgent whispers. "We need you to pretend you're our father." Marcus blinked, certain he'd misheard. "You need me to what?" "Just for tonight," the left girl spoke quickly. "Just until the party's over. Then you can go back to being a stranger. We'll even pay you." The middle one produced a crumpled $5 bill. "This is everything we have." "Girls, I think there's been some misunderstanding. Please." The right girl's eyes filled with perfectly calibrated tears. "Our mama sits by herself at every wedding. People look at her with sad faces because she doesn't have a husband, because we don't have a dad. She smiles and pretends she's fine, but she's not fine." Something in Marcus's chest cracked. He knew that smile, had perfected it himself over 3 years. "Where's your mother?" 3 arms pointed in perfect synchronization. Near a decorative column, a woman in a navy dress sat with her hands folded, alone in a sea of couples. She held herself with dignity that made Marcus's throat tighten. "That's our mama, Emma Hayes. She works 2 jobs so we can have nice things. She reads us stories every night, even when she's tired. And nobody ever talks to her at parties. They just look at her like she's sad and broken. But she's not broken. She's just alone." Emma turned, caught sight of her daughters at his table, expression shifting through surprise, concern, resignation. She set down her water glass, rising with careful grace, heels clicking against hardwood. Marcus had perhaps 15 seconds to make a decision. He looked at the 3 girls, at their desperate hope, thought about Sarah, about how she'd told him to stop hiding, to actually live. "Okay." The word emerged quiet but certain. "What are your names?" 3 faces transformed. "I'm Lily. Grace. Violet." "Tell me about your mother. Quick." The girls tumbled over each other. "She likes books and hates mushrooms, and laughs when people trip, but feels bad, and she's scared of thunder, but pretends she's not." Emma reached the table, breathless, cheeks flushed. "Girls, I am so sorry. I hope they weren't bothering you." Marcus stood, gesture automatic. Up close, Emma was striking, not polished, but real. The kind of beauty that came from living fully. "They weren't bothering me at all. Actually, I was just asking if I could join your table. Sitting alone at weddings is depressing." Surprise flickered across Emma's face, followed by confusion, followed by hope, before she shut it down. "Oh, you don't have to." "I've been trying to work up the courage to introduce myself to the beautiful woman in the navy dress. Your daughters just gave me the perfect excuse." Emma's cheeks flushed pink. For just a second, her smile became genuine. "I'm Emma Hayes, and these troublemakers are Lily, Grace, and Violet." "He already knows our names, Mama." Marcus extended his hand. "Marcus Blackwood. Very glad your daughters are so good at making friends." Behind Emma's back, all 3 girls gave enthusiastic thumbs up. Emma led him to table 27, apologizing for everything. Marcus held her chair, watched her surprise at the small gesture. The girls vibrated with barely contained energy. Lily shot Marcus looks with all the subtlety of a car alarm. Grace grinned painfully wide. Violet whispered, "It's working," under her breath. I really am sorry about them ambushing you. Emma's hands fluttered with her napkin.
We're very good at talking to strangers,
Lily announced proudly. That's not the compliment you think it is, sweetie. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. When was the last time he'd laughed? Really laughed? Honestly, they did me a favor. I was about to leave, go home to an empty house. Emma's eyes met his. I know that feeling. You don't have to pretend. The girls told me you work 2 jobs and do this alone. That takes strength. Or desperation. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. A waiter appeared. Can I get you folks anything? I'll have whatever she's drinking. Can we have Shirley Temples? Grace asked hopefully. With extra cherries. Please. Emma shook her head. You're going to be bouncing off the walls. That's a problem for later, Mama. Right now, Mama gets to have fun. The evening unfolded with unexpected ease. They discussed the wedding, debated cake flavors. The girls pointed out when someone's toupee shifted, when great-uncle somebody fell asleep. That's not polite. But it's true. We're just being observational. The word is observant. That's what I said. Marcus found himself relaxing, the permanent tension dissipating. For the first time since Sarah's death, he felt like a person instead of just a widower going through motions. Dance with our mama. Lily's announcement came with tactical precision. Emma's face flushed. Lily, you can't. The DJ said everyone should dance. That means everyone. Marcus stood, extending his hand. I think we're outnumbered. Emma stared at his hand. I haven't danced in 4 years. Neither have I. We'll probably embarrass ourselves, but your daughters have gone to considerable effort. Something in Emma's expression softened. She placed her hand in his, let him lead her to the dance floor. Marcus placed one hand on Emma's waist, kept the other clasping hers. This close, he could see golden flecks in her hazel eyes, smell her perfume, light and floral. They began to sway, finding rhythm despite awkwardness. Your daughters are master manipulators. I'm aware. I'm raising tiny con artists. They love you. They can't stand seeing you lonely. Should I be offended they picked someone who looks lonely? I think we should both be flattered they recognized kindred spirits. They danced in silence, other couples creating privacy through proximity. Can I ask you something? Emma's voice was quiet. Sure. Why did you say yes? It's a crazy request. Marcus settled on honesty. Because I saw your face when you thought they were bothering me. You were already expecting rejection. I know that feeling. I know what it's like to brace for disappointment. I wanted to give you one night where you didn't have to brace. Emma's eyes glistened. That's the kindest thing anyone said to me in a very long time. Your daughters might have been onto something. Lonely, helping lonely. Is it helping? Or are we just good at pretending? Marcus smiled. Does it matter for tonight? The song ended. Marcus started to step back, but Emma's hand tightened on his shoulder. One more? If you don't mind? I don't mind at all. They danced through 3 more songs, bodies finding synchronization. Emma wasn't the lonely single mom anymore. She was just a woman at a wedding, laughing, looking genuinely happy. When they returned to the table, the girls were beside themselves. You danced for 4 whole songs. Mrs. Patterson saw you. She didn't look sad this time. She looked surprised. Mission accomplished. Tyler appeared, face smeared with chocolate. Daddy, you were dancing with a lady. Tyler, this is Emma, and her daughters Lily, Grace, and Violet. Hi, I'm Tyler.
Do you guys want to see my balloon sword?
The evening dissolved into chaos. Children comparing balloon animals, adults laughing. Marcus danced with each girl, Lily standing on his feet, Grace demanding twirls, Violet insisting on dramatic dips that made Emma laugh until she snorted. They shared wedding cake. Marcus made Emma laugh until tears streamed down her face. For 4 hours, they forgot their loneliness. Reality crept back as the reception wound down. Emma glanced at her daughters, noting drooping eyes.
I should get them home.
It's past their bedtime. Marcus stood, uncertain. Before he could decide, Lily appeared.
Mr. Marcus, thank you for being our pretend daddy tonight. You were really good at it.
You're welcome, Lily. Thank you for picking me.
We didn't pick wrong, did we? You had fun, right?
We had fun, Emma confirmed softly. Then you should see each other again. That's what grown-ups do when they have fun together.
Violet, you can't just...
She's not wrong. Marcus looked at Emma, heart hammering. I know this started as pretend, but I haven't enjoyed an evening this much in 3 years. I'd like to see you again. For real. No pretending.
Definitely orchestrating,
Lily confirmed. Emma bit her lip, war happening behind her eyes.
Coffee.
That's all I'm asking.
It won't be terrible,
Grace said confidently. Emma pulled out her phone, fingers trembling.
Okay, 1 coffee. But I'm warning you, without the romance of a wedding, I'm actually pretty boring.
I seriously doubt that. Marcus entered his number, felt his phone buzz as she texted him. Hi, it's Marcus.
I'll text you tomorrow. We'll figure out what works.
Emma gathered her daughters, but before leaving, she stood on her toes, kissed Marcus's cheek briefly. Warmth lingered against his skin.
Thank you for playing along, for making tonight special, for being kind.
Then she was gone, leaving Marcus with his hand pressed to his cheek and something that felt dangerously like hope. Tyler appeared. Did you get her number? I got her number.
Are you going to see her again?
Marcus looked at his son, at the hope on his face. I'm going to see her again. Tyler's whoop made departing guests turn, smiling. He threw his arms around Marcus's waist.
She's nice, Dad. And you were smiling.
I was smiling. That night, Marcus lay in bed staring at his ceiling, phone glowing with Emma's number. He thought about Sarah, about how she'd want him to be happy. His phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. The girls won't stop talking about you. They're calling you their project. Fair warning. Marcus smiled, typing back. Tell them their project is already a success. I haven't smiled this much in years.
Then you're definitely trying to bribe your way into our good graces.
Is it working? A pause.
Yes. Coffee on Tuesday. There's a place near my work. 3 p.m.
I'll be there. Tuesday arrived wrapped in nervous energy. Marcus changed shirts 3 times, arrived 15 minutes early. The coffee shop was small, wedged between a dry cleaner and a pharmacy. Mismatched furniture, chalkboard menu, smell of homemade baking. Emma was already there, coffee cooling. She'd changed from scrubs into jeans and a soft blue sweater. Hi.
Hi.
Emma's fingers wrapped around her cup.
I ordered already. I have to pick the girls up at 4:30.
Conversation was stilted at first, missing the wedding atmosphere. But then Emma asked about his work, and Marcus found himself talking about real estate development in ways he hadn't in years. Emma talked about nursing, about being present during people's most vulnerable moments. They fell into rhythm. Jokes landed, references connected, silences became comfortable. "Can I ask you something?" Emma said. "Sure." "Your wife, how long has it been?" 3 years. Aneurysm. She was 35. No warning. One day she was here, and the next she wasn't. Emma reached across the table, squeezed his hand briefly. "I'm so sorry." "What about the girl's father?" "Left when they were 6 months old. Said 3 babies was more than he'd signed up for. Haven't heard from him in almost 6 years." "His loss." Marcus said it fiercely. "The girls ask about him sometimes. I don't know what to say except he's missing out on knowing the 3 most amazing people in the world." "You're raising them alone. 2 jobs. That's incredible." "It's survival. Some days I barely keep it together." "Your daughters adore you. They orchestrated an elaborate scheme just to see you happy. That doesn't happen by accident." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You can't just say things like that." "Why not?" "Because I might start believing you, and hope is dangerous." "What if we're both brave enough to be disappointed again?" Emma looked at him for a long moment. "One more coffee next week." "Yes." "And maybe dinner after that." "Definitely." Emma gathered her purse reluctantly. "I really do have to get them. But this was nice." It was. "Same time next week?" "Same time next week." 1 week became 2. 2 coffees became easier conversation, shared laughter, the beginning of something neither wanted to name yet. By the 3rd coffee, 3 weeks after the wedding, Marcus and Emma sat at their corner table like it belonged to them. "I need to tell you something." Emma's voice was serious. "About your wife." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What about her?" "I was her nurse, the night she died, in the ICU." Emma's eyes held tears. "I didn't remember you at first. You were so destroyed. But it's been coming back. I held her hand when you couldn't be there. She asked me to tell you something." Reality rearranged itself around information Marcus wasn't prepared to process. "What did she say?" "She said, 'Tell my husband it's okay to love again. Tell him he has my permission to live.'" Emma was crying. "I've thought about that night for 3 years. Wondered if I'd ever find you to deliver that message. And then 3 little girls walked up to you at a wedding, and I thought, maybe this was meant to happen." Marcus couldn't breathe. Sarah had known, had given permission, had sent a message through a nurse whose face he couldn't remember, but who'd somehow found him anyway. "You've been carrying that for 3 years?" "I remember every patient who doesn't make it, but I remember her especially. She was so young, so scared, but so determined to make sure you'd be okay." Emma's hands found his. "I don't know if this is fate or coincidence or 3 very determined little girls, but I think she'd be happy that we found each other." Marcus pulled Emma close, cried for the first time since Sarah's funeral. Not grief alone, but gratitude, permission, release of 3 years of guilt. Emma held him through it, this woman who'd witnessed his worst day and somehow become the possibility of his best ones. When Marcus could breathe again, they sat in silence that held more than words. "Where do we go from here?" Emma asked. Marcus thought about all the logical reasons this wouldn't work. Then he looked at Emma's hand in his, at the future that terrified and thrilled him. Forward. Together.
Whatever that looks like. Emma nodded. Resolution. Choice. The decision to be brave. His phone buzzed.
Tyler asking when Miss Emma could visit their home, when they could all be together again. Marcus showed Emma the text, watched her smile. Next week? Marcus asked. You and the girls. Come see our place. Let the kids play. Let us figure out what this is. Okay, we'll come. That night, Marcus fell asleep thinking about coffee dates and Sarah's blessing. About a woman who'd entered his life through impossible circumstances and was rapidly becoming essential. The future stretched uncertain but chosen, terrifying but worth the risk. Whatever came next, he was ready. With Emma, with their children, with 3 tiny matchmakers already planning phase 3 of their elaborate scheme. The months slipped by in the kind of blur that only happens when life transforms from surviving to living. Week 4 became week 8. Emma and the girls started spending weekends at the penthouse, Tyler teaching Lily his video games, while Marcus attempted increasingly ambitious dinners that ranged from edible to catastrophic. Grace appointed herself quality control inspector, delivering brutal verdicts with 6-year-old honesty. Violet claimed Marcus's home office as her art studio, covering his glass walls with crayon masterpieces he refused to erase. By month 3, they'd fallen into rhythm that felt inevitable. Tuesday and Thursday nights at Emma's apartment, Marcus arriving straight from the office with takeout and homework help. Weekends alternating between his place and hers, children's belongings migrating between homes until neither space felt complete without all 6 of them present. Marcus met Emma's parents in month 4, endured the particular scrutiny of a father who'd watched his daughter nearly break and wasn't about to let some billionaire CEO finish the job. Passed inspection only after 3 hours of patient questions about intentions, faith, commitment to being present. Emma attended Marcus's company holiday party that same month, navigating conversations with board members who smiled while calculating whether this relationship represented liability or distraction. The cracks started showing in month 5. Deals delayed while Marcus left early for school pickups. Conference calls rescheduled around bedtime routines. Richard's pointed comments about divided focus during strategy meetings. Margaret's concerned looks when Marcus declined business dinners to attend Violet's piano recital. Emma noticed but said nothing, too grateful for his presence to question what it cost him. The girls blossomed with male attention they'd never known. Tyler thrived with siblings who turned his only child existence into chaotic joy. Marcus told himself he could balance everything. The company that had been his identity for 15 years, and the family that was rapidly becoming his future. He was wrong. 6 months after that first wedding, the math had become undeniable. 3 major deals stalled. 2 clients lost to competitors. One board increasingly convinced their CEO had lost his edge. Marcus sat in his penthouse the night before the scheduled board meeting, reviewing spreadsheets that told a story he couldn't refute, knowing Richard had ammunition Marcus had foolishly provided. His phone buzzed with a text from Emma. The girls made you a card. They're calling it Best Fake Daddy Who Became Real Daddy. Tyler helped with spelling. We miss you. Come over? Marcus stared at the message, at the company reports, at the choice crystallizing in front of him with brutal clarity. The board meeting started at 9 sharp. 20 executives arranged around the glass conference table like pieces positioned for a corporate execution. The board meeting started at 9 sharp. 20 executives arranged around the glass conference table like pieces positioned for a corporate execution. Marcus recognized the setup immediately, had orchestrated enough of these himself to know when he was the target instead of the strategist. Richard Chen, the CFO who'd been angling for more control since Marcus promoted him 3 years ago, led the assault with spreadsheets projected on the wall. Numbers told their own story. Deals delayed, decisions deferred, the kind of hesitation that cost millions in real estate development where timing meant everything. The Riverside project, Richard's laser pointer highlighted red figures. We had a 6-week window to close. We're now at week 9 with no signed contracts. The developers went with Hastings Group instead. Marcus kept his expression neutral, fingers steepled on the table. Market conditions shifted. The delay was strategic. Strategic? Richard smiled without warmth. Is that what we're calling distraction now? The room went quiet, tension thick enough to choke on. Marcus felt eyes tracking his reaction, board members who'd made fortunes following his instincts, now questioning whether those instincts had dulled. Say what you mean, Richard. Your personal life is affecting your professional judgment. Richard clicked to the next slide, more red numbers, more missed opportunities. 3 major deals stalled in 6 months. Unprecedented for you. Meanwhile, you're leaving early, taking Tuesdays off, canceling meetings for, he checked his notes with theatrical precision, family commitments. Heat crawled up Marcus's neck. His relationship with Emma had been deliberately private, kept separate from the office, but apparently not separate enough. Corporate gossip traveled faster than any official communication. My performance speaks for itself. Your past performance. Another board member spoke up, Margaret Winters, who'd been on the board since Marcus's father founded the company. We're concerned about your current trajectory. This firm requires total commitment. Marcus thought about Emma waiting outside hospitals after brutal shifts, about Tyler's homework spread across the kitchen table, about 3 little girls who'd somehow become part of his daily consideration. Total commitment meant the kind of isolation that had nearly destroyed him after Sarah died. I've given this company 15 years of total commitment. His voice stayed level through effort. I'm entitled to a personal life. Of course you are. Richard's reasonableness was calculated cruelty. We're simply suggesting you choose. The firm or, he paused delicately, other priorities. We can't have both versions of Marcus Blackwood. We need the one who built this empire, not the one who's dismantling it for a woman he's known 6 months. The words landed like physical blows. Marcus stood, chair scraping against marble. This meeting is over. We're not finished. Margaret's voice carried steel beneath the grandmother's softness. We need a decision, Marcus. Recommit to this company or step aside for someone who will. The ultimatum hung in expensive air, fluorescent lighting making everyone look slightly corpse-like. Marcus looked around the table at faces he'd worked alongside for years, people who'd celebrated his successes and barely acknowledged his grief, who wanted his brilliance but not his humanity. You'll have my answer Monday. He walked out before anyone could respond, the click of his shoes on marble echoing finality. The drive home took 40 minutes through traffic that matched his mood, gridlocked and aggressive. Marcus called Emma 3 times, hung up before she answered, unsure what he'd say. That he was choosing her? That he was choosing the company? That he was a 41-year-old man who apparently couldn't balance basic life requirements? Tyler was waiting in the penthouse, homework abandoned, Nanny hovering nervously in the background. The boy took one look at Marcus's face and knew something had shifted. Is Miss Emma okay? The question gutted him. Not, are you okay? Not, what's wrong? But immediate concern for the woman who'd become central to their redefined normal. She's fine. Everything's fine. The lie tasted bitter.
Marcus loosened his tie, poured scotch he didn't want, stared out windows that cost more than most people's annual salary. But everything wasn't fine. The board had crystallized something Marcus had been avoiding, the reality that Emma came with complications his previous life hadn't prepared him for.
Different worlds, different expectations, different everything. Sarah had understood corporate demands because she'd lived them too, had accepted canceled dinners and business trips without resentment because that was their shared language. Emma worked double shifts to afford her daughter's winter coats. Emma took the bus because car payments were impossibly expensive. Emma's world operated on constraints Marcus had forgotten existed, and bridging that gap required more than good intentions. His phone buzzed. Emma's name appeared with a simple question mark, probably responding to his missed calls. Marcus stared at the screen, typed 3 different responses, deleted all of them, finally sent nothing. The silence stretched through Friday evening, through Saturday morning, through Sunday afternoon when they should have been at the park with all 4 kids. Marcus texted excuses. Work emergency, sick. Anything to avoid the conversation he knew was necessary, but couldn't force himself to have. Emma's responses grew shorter, confusion bleeding into hurt, bleeding into the particular coldness of someone protecting themselves from inevitable disappointment. By Monday, Marcus had made his decision. He showed up at the board meeting with renewed focus, outlined strategies for recovering lost deals, promised the total commitment they demanded. Richard smiled like a predator who'd successfully cornered prey. Margaret nodded approval. The company's trajectory corrected with the ruthless efficiency Marcus had built his reputation on. Tuesday arrived without the usual coffee date. Wednesday passed without the evening phone call that had become routine. By Thursday, Emma stopped texting entirely, messages unanswered, creating a silence that felt permanent. Tyler's misery manifested in ways that broke through even Marcus's determined compartmentalization. Homework incomplete. Dinner refused. Questions about Miss Emma asked with decreasing hope until they stopped being asked at all. Did she leave because of me? Tyler asked on Friday night, voice small in the penthouse that suddenly felt cavernous. No, buddy. This has nothing to do with you. Then why won't she visit? Why won't you call her? Marcus had no answer that wouldn't be a lie, so he said nothing. Let the silence speak volumes. Tyler was too young to fully decode, but old enough to feel the weight of. At the South Side apartment, Emma threw herself into work with a particular fury of someone running from feelings too complicated to process. Double shifts became triple, her supervisor expressing concern that got waved away with assurances Emma was fine, everything was manageable, she just needed the money. The girls asked constantly about Mr. Marcus and Tyler. Plans made and broken. Promises implied, then abandoned. Emma deflected with increasing desperation, inventing reasons that grew thinner each time. He's busy with work, sweethearts. But he said he'd take us to the museum. Plans change. People get busy. That's life. Lily, Grace, and Violet exchanged looks that carried too much understanding, the particular wisdom of children who'd already learned that adults leave, that promises break, that hope was dangerous. Emma saw their faith cracking and hated Marcus for it, hated herself more for believing 6 months could overcome fundamental incompatibility. She'd been a project for him, something to fix his loneliness temporarily before reality reasserted itself. The wedding had been fantasy, coffee dates were borrowed time, and now the bill had come due. She picked up extra shifts at the hospital, worked until exhaustion made thinking impossible, until her hands shook from fatigue and her supervisor physically pulled her off the floor. Emma, you're going to make a mistake that kills someone.
Go home. But home meant the girl's questions and her own spiraling thoughts, so Emma volunteered for another shift, and another, running on caffeine and spite until her body decided it had endured enough. The collapse happened during a routine patient check, Emma's vision graying at the edges, knees buckling without warning. She caught herself on the bed rail, barely, stayed upright through sheer will, finished the check through muscle memory alone. The attending physician found her in the supply closet 10 minutes later, sitting on the floor with her head between her knees, trying to breathe through nausea that wouldn't quit.
That's it. You're done. Go to the ER.
I'm fine, just need water.
That's not a request, Hayes. You're a liability in this condition. ER now, or I'm calling security. Emma made it to the ER waiting room before her legs gave out properly, collapsing into a plastic chair that smelled like disinfectant and despair. A nurse she vaguely recognized checked her vitals, asked questions about the last time she'd eaten, slept, functioned like a human instead of a machine running on fumes. The call went out to her emergency contact, updated 6 months ago in a moment of hopeful stupidity when Emma thought maybe, possibly, someone would stick around. Marcus's number appeared on the nurse's screen, got dialed with routine efficiency. Marcus was in a meeting when his phone buzzed, had implemented a strict no interruptions policy that his assistant knew better than to violate unless someone was dying. The fact that she knocked anyway, face pale with urgency, made his stomach drop. Chicago Memorial called. Emma Hayes collapsed at work. She's in the ER. The meeting disappeared, Marcus already moving before conscious thought engaged. Traffic laws became suggestions, red lights merely advisory. The drive to the hospital accomplished in half the time it should have taken. He found her in a curtained bay, 4 in her arm, monitors beeping rhythm, exhaustion written in every line of her body. Emma's eyes were closed, breath even, finally resting because her body had forced the issue her mind kept denying. Marcus stood in the doorway, fear and guilt churning in equal measure. This was his fault. His withdrawal had done this. His cowardice choosing the easier path of isolation over the harder work of integration. Emma's eyes opened, found him standing there, and her expression cycled through surprise, hurt, anger, landing on weary resignation.
Why are you here?
They called me. I'm still listed as your emergency contact.
Right.
Emma looked away.
I'll need to change that.
The words cut deeper than any accusation. Marcus stepped into the bay, pulled the curtain closed, creating fragile privacy in the chaos of the ER. Emma.
Go back to your perfect life, Marcus. This was a mistake. We both knew it would be eventually.
It wasn't a mistake. His voice came out rougher than intended. I made a mistake. I pulled away because I was terrified.
Of what? Me? My kids? The fact that we don't fit in your world?
Of losing you like I lost Sarah. The honesty ripped out of him, raw and bleeding. Of Tyler getting attached and you leaving. Of not being enough because I don't know how to do this. Emma sat up despite the IV, despite the monitor's protest. Anger giving her energy exhaustion had stolen.
You think you're scared? I'm a single mom with 3 kids and medical debt I'll be paying off until I'm 60. Derek left because I wasn't enough. Why would you stay? Why would anyone?
Because you are enough. Because those girls are extraordinary. Because the last 6 months have been the first time since Sarah died that I felt alive instead of just existing.
Then why did you disappear?
Tears spilled over, Emma too tired to hold them back.
Why did you stop calling? Stop texting?
Stop pretending we mattered. Marcus wanted to explain about the board meeting, the ultimatum, the impossible choice between career and relationship, but the explanations felt hollow against the evidence of what his silence had cost. I thought I was protecting us, protecting you from complications, protecting Tyler from more loss, protecting myself from hoping too much. How's that working out? The question hung between them, answer obvious in Emma's IV, in Marcus's presence, in the mess they'd both created by running from the thing they wanted most. Before Marcus could respond, commotion erupted in the hallway. Tyler's voice, high with panic, calling for his dad, the nanny's apologetic tones trying to contain a situation already spiraling beyond control. Marcus pulled the curtain back, found his son red-faced and furious, having apparently escaped supervision with the determination only 8-year-olds could muster. Tyler, what are you doing here? Mrs. Patterson said Miss Emma was sick. You left really fast and you were scared, and I knew something was wrong. Tyler pushed past Marcus, saw Emma in the bed with her IV, burst into tears with the totality of children who hadn't yet learned to hide their feelings. You're fighting! I heard you fighting, and you can't fight because then you'll break up like Jenny's parents, and it'll be my fault because I wanted a mom and I ruined everything. The breakdown shattered what remained of Marcus's composure. He pulled Tyler close, felt the boy's whole body shaking with sobs, looked over his son's head at Emma, whose tears now matched Tyler's. It's not your fault, buddy. None of this is your fault. But you stopped visiting, and Miss Emma stopped smiling. And Lillian, Grace, and Violet keep asking what we did wrong, and I don't know what to tell them. More commotion, this time Emma's neighbor, Mrs. Chen, appearing with 3 little girls in tow, all of them demanding to know why Mama was in the hospital, why Mr. Marcus was there, why everyone was crying. The ER bay became cramped with children and emotions, 4 kids and 2 adults who'd been trying to protect everyone by pulling apart, now facing the evidence that separation had accomplished the opposite. Lily pushed through to Emma's bedside, took her mother's hand with fierce possession. Did Mr. Marcus make you sick? No, sweetie. I made myself sick by working too much. Because you were sad. Grace's bluntness cut through adult evasions. You've been sad since he stopped coming over. We thought the project was working. Violet looked between Marcus and Emma with betrayal in her eyes. We thought you were happy. Marcus knelt so he was eye level with all 4 children, Tyler still clinging to his side, the girls arranged like a tribunal rendering judgment. You didn't do anything wrong. Your project worked perfectly. Miss Emma and we got scared. Grown-ups do that sometimes. We get scared of being happy because happiness can be taken away. That's stupid. Lily's assessment was brutal in its childhood honesty. Mama says you have to be brave, even when you're scared. She says running away just makes everything worse. Marcus looked up at Emma, saw her biting her lip against tears, saw his own fear reflected back alongside something that might have been hope, trying not to announce itself prematurely. Tyler pulled back enough to look at Marcus directly, eyes red, but voice steady. Do you love Miss Emma? The question demanded honesty. No corporate deflection, no careful evasion. 4 children stared at Marcus, waiting for truth they'd already intuited, but needed confirmed. Yes, I love Miss Emma. Do you love us? Grace asked, including her sisters with a gesture. Yes, all of you. More than I thought I could love anyone after your mommy died. He addressed Tyler directly, then included the girls. More than I knew I was still capable of. Violet turned to Emma, same directness,
Same demand for truth. Do you love Mr. Marcus? Emma's fingers tightened on Lily's hand, tears tracking down her face faster than she could wipe them away. Yes, I love Mr. Marcus, even when he's being an idiot. And Tyler? Rose needed every piece confirmed. Tyler, too. All of you. You're all... Emma's voice broke. You're all part of this now. Part of us. The four children looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them that adults couldn't access. Then they moved as one, creating a circle around Marcus and Emma, hands joined in a chain of determination. Then stop lying to each other.
Lily spoke with the authority of someone orchestrating operations beyond her years. Mama always says lying is wrong. You're lying when you say you don't love each other just because you're scared. We want to be a family. Tyler's voice carried certainty that made Marcus's chest ache. We decided, all of us. We talked about it and we want to be together. So stop fighting and fix it. Grace's practicality allowed no room for adult complications. That's what you tell us to do when we fight. The simplicity of it broke through Marcus's careful rationalizations, Emma's protective barriers, the elaborate justifications they'd both constructed for self-sabotage. Four children holding hands, demanding the adults be brave enough to match their courage. Emma met Marcus's eyes over their joined heads, an entire conversation happening in silence. Fear acknowledged, risk accepted. Choice made despite every rational reason to run. Okay, Emma said at first, voice barely audible. Okay, we'll fix it. Marcus nodded, throat too tight for words, reaching across the small distance to take Emma's free hand, completing the circle. 4 children and 2 adults, connected by hope and fear in equal measure. The ER doctor chose that moment to return, stopping short at the tableau of family that had formed in her absence. She looked at the monitors, at Emma's improved color, at the assembled group radiating determination. Well, your vitals are better. Whatever medication you're on, it's working. Emma laughed through tears, exhaustion and relief mixing into something approaching joy. It's a new treatment, very effective. The doctor checked charts with professional efficiency, gave instructions about rest and hydration that Emma only half heard, focused instead on Marcus's hand in hers, solid and real, and choosing to stay. Discharge took another hour, paperwork and prescriptions, and stern lectures about self-care. Marcus handled logistics with the efficiency that made him successful in business, arranging rides, updating emergency contacts properly this time, making plans that assumed a future instead of inevitable endings. They ended up at Emma's apartment, all 6 of them crammed into space designed for 4, children sprawled across furniture claiming territory. Marcus looked around at the worn couch, the kitchen table with one leg shorter than the others, the bathroom door that didn't quite close properly, and saw not poverty, but home built through determination and love. Emma made tea with hands that still trembled slightly, exhaustion bone deep, but unable to rest while adrenaline kept her system alert. Marcus took the cup from her before she could drop it, guided her to the couch, sat close enough that their shoulders touched. I need to tell you something. Marcus kept his voice low, meant only for her while the children argued about movie choices. The board gave me an ultimatum. The company or personal life. They said I had to choose. Emma's body tensed, pulling away slightly. And you chose the company. I tried to. Spent 2 weeks convincing myself that was the logical choice, the safe choice.
protected everything except what actually mattered. Which is? This. Marcus gestured at the apartment, the children, the life that existed outside corporate success. You and Tyler and those 3 tiny terrorists who ambushed me at a wedding. The board wants total commitment to building empires. I want to build a family. Emma's breath caught. Marcus, you can't throw away your career. I'm not throwing it away. I'm renegotiating terms. They need me more than I need them, and it's time I reminded everyone of that. His hand found hers, fingers interlacing. But I need you to meet me halfway. Let me help with things, not because you can't handle it, but because that's what people do when they love each other. I don't know how to accept help.
Emma's voice wavered between want and fear.
Derek left when I needed him most. I can't survive being abandoned again. Then don't push me away when things get hard. Let me prove I stay. Let me earn that trust instead of demanding it. The children had gone suspiciously quiet, 4 faces turned toward the adults with the particular focus of people pretending not to eavesdrop. Marcus met Tyler's eyes, saw hope naked and vulnerable. Too much riding on this conversation for an 8-year-old to bear. I'm terrified. Emma admitted it to the room, to Marcus, to herself. Of hoping too much. Of my girls getting hurt. Of this being temporary. I'm terrified too. Marcus squeezed her hand. Of failing you. Of Tyler losing another person he loves. Of not being enough when you need me. But I'd rather be terrified together than safe and alone. Lily climbed onto the couch between them, serious expression that looked comical on a 6-year-old face. Are you going to be our daddy now?
The question hung in the air, thick with implication. Marcus looked at Emma, asking permission, receiving a nod that gave him space to answer honestly. If your mama and I keep doing this right, if we're very lucky, then yes. Eventually. But that's a big decision that takes time.
How much time?
Grace wanted specifics. We need to do this properly, Emma said, finding her voice.
Get to know each other better. Make sure we're making choices for the right reasons. We already know the right reasons.
Violet's confidence was absolute.
You love each other. We love each other. That's enough reasons.
Tyler joined them on the couch, squeezing into space that barely fit everyone, creating a pile of humans that smelled like children and hope.
Can we please just be a family? Please?
Marcus felt his throat close, looked at Emma over their children's heads, saw his own overwhelmed joy reflected back. 6 months ago, he'd been sitting alone at a wedding, counting minutes until he could escape. Now he was surrounded by more life than he'd known how to want, drowning in the beautiful chaos of choosing connection over safety. Yeah, buddy. Marcus pulled Tyler closer. Yeah, we can be a family. The celebration was immediate and loud. 4 children shrieking victory, already planning logistics Emma and Marcus hadn't begun to consider. Sleepovers and shared holidays and elaborate fantasies about rooms and toys and all the small details that constituted daily life. Emma rested her head on Marcus's shoulder, exhaustion finally permitted now that crisis had passed.
This is insane. We're insane.
Completely, Marcus agreed. But I'd rather be insane with you than sane and alone.
The weeks that followed tested that commitment in ways neither had anticipated.
Blending families required negotiations more complex than any corporate merger. 4 children with different needs and expectations, Two adults learning each other's rhythms while maintaining individual autonomy. Tuesday and Thursday nights became Emma's at the penthouse, Tyler showing the girls his room with proprietary pride, Marcus cooking dinners that ranged from acceptable to catastrophic. Weekend mornings meant Marcus at Emma's apartment, discovering that 3 6-year-olds getting ready for anything required coordination that would shame military operations. The class differences that had seemed manageable in theory became glaringly obvious in practice. Tyler's private school charged more per semester than Emma made in 6 months. The girls' public school needed parent volunteers Emma couldn't provide while working double shifts. Marcus offered to pay for private school, watching Emma's expression shudder with pride and hurt. I can't accept that. It's not charity. It's making sure they have the same opportunities as Tyler. It's you fixing my poverty with your checkbook. Emma's voice carried an edge that made Marcus step carefully. I know you mean well, but I need to provide for my daughters myself. That's not realistic when you're working yourself into the ground. Then I work harder. Emma's jaw set with stubbornness Marcus was learning to recognize. I don't need rescuing, Marcus. I need a partner who respects that I've survived this long on my own terms. Marcus backed off, frustrated but understanding the deeper issue. Emma's independence wasn't pride, it was survival instinct, armor forged through years of managing alone. Asking her to lower that defense meant proving he wouldn't exploit the vulnerability. He found a middle ground, establishing a scholarship fund through his company that Emma's daughters qualified for based on academic merit and financial need. Not charity, not special treatment. Just access to resources that leveled playing fields, deliberately tilted against families like hers. Emma researched it thoroughly, suspicious of any loopholes that might compromise her autonomy, finally accepting when the paperwork proved legitimate. Thank you for understanding why this matters. Thank you for letting me help the way you need, instead of the way I wanted to. The compromise felt like progress until Derek's lawyer served papers 3 weeks later, legal documents delivered to Emma's apartment with timing calculated for maximum disruption. Petition for partial custody, allegations of neglect, claims that Emma's relationship with Marcus proved she prioritized romance over parenting. Emma read the petition with hands that shook beyond control, words blurring through tears of rage and terror. He wants them. After 6 years of nothing, he wants custody. Marcus read over her shoulder, fury building with each paragraph of carefully constructed lies. Derek's lawyer had done thorough work, painting Emma as unstable, Marcus as an inappropriate influence, their relationship as evidence of poor judgment. He can't win this. Marcus kept his voice level through effort. You're an excellent mother. Any court will see that. Courts see what lawyers tell them to see. Emma collapsed onto her worn couch, petition crumpling in her fist. And I can't afford a lawyer who can fight this. Derek knows that. This isn't about the girls. It's about destroying me. Marcus pulled out his phone, already scrolling contacts. I know the best family lawyer in Chicago. She's expensive, but no. Emma's refusal was immediate and absolute. I can't take more money from you. Don't you see how this looks? I'm already the gold digger dating a billionaire. Having you pay for my custody battle proves every accusation Derek's making. Then what do you want me to do? Watch you lose your daughters because pride won't let me help? I want you to trust that I can handle my own problems. Emma stood, pacing the small living room. I want one thing in my life that I solve myself, instead of being rescued by my rich boyfriend. The argument spiraled, stress and fear finding outlet in blame, both of them saying things meant to wound because hurting felt easier than acknowledging terror.
Marcus left before words became truly unforgivable, driving back to his penthouse with Emma's accusations ringing in his ears. Tyler found him on the couch at midnight, still in work clothes, staring at nothing. "Did you and Miss Emma break up again?" "No, we're just—" Marcus searched for words that wouldn't scare an 8-year-old. "Working through something difficult. The bad man who left them wants them back." Tyler said it with the brutal honesty of someone who'd overheard more than adults realized. "I heard Lily crying about it at school. She's scared he'll take them away." Marcus's chest constricted. "That's not going to happen." "But what if it does? What if the judge says they have to go with him because he's their real dad and you're just some guy who dances with their mom?" The fear in Tyler's voice mirrored Marcus's own, the terror that love wasn't enough against legal systems and biological claims. "Then we fight. All of us, together. We don't give up on people we love." "Even when they push us away because they're scared?" The wisdom in that question, the way Tyler saw through adult complications to essential truth, made Marcus pull his son close. "Especially then. Being scared is when people need us most." Marcus showed up at Emma's custody hearing without invitation, without permission, knowing she'd be furious and not caring. The public defender assigned to her case was fresh from law school, overwhelmed and outmatched by Derek's attorney, who'd clearly been coached on every weakness to exploit. Emma sat rigid in her chair, the girls with Mrs. Chen in the hallway, because children weren't permitted in custody proceedings that would determine their entire future. She didn't acknowledge Marcus when he slid into the gallery, but her shoulders straightened slightly, armor reinforced by presence even unwanted. Derek's lawyer painted a picture of maternal negligence, working excessive hours, dating inappropriately, exposing children to unstable relationships. The public defender objected weakly, citing Emma's spotless record, her daughter's excellent school attendance, their obvious health and happiness. "Your Honor, my client works 2 jobs because the respondent," she indicated Derek, "has provided 0 financial support in 6 years. She's doing her best under impossible circumstances." Derek's lawyer smiled. "Circumstances that would be less impossible if she accepted help from her wealthy boyfriend. Instead, Ms. Hayes's pride puts her children at risk. Mr. Davis has a stable home, a wife who doesn't work outside the home, resources to provide proper care." Marcus watched Emma's face crumble, watched her public defender struggle to counter arguments built on truth twisted into weapons. He couldn't sit silent anymore. Consequences be damned. He stood, cutting through procedure with the authority of someone accustomed to rooms rearranging themselves around his presence. "Your Honor, may I address the court?" The judge looked surprised, irritated, curious. "You're not party to this case, Mr. Blackwood, Marcus Blackwood. I'm—" he paused, choosing words carefully. "Deeply involved with Ms. Hayes and her daughters. I have information relevant to these proceedings." Derek's lawyer objected immediately, citing procedure, demanding Marcus be removed. Emma's public defender looked panicked, unsure whether this helped or hurt. Emma herself stared at Marcus with expressions cycling through fury, fear, hope. The judge considered, gavelled down Derek's lawyer's objections. "I'll allow brief testimony. Mr. Blackwood, approach." Marcus walked to the stand, sworn in with oath he intended to honor completely, looked directly at Emma before speaking. "I met Emma Hayes 6 months ago at a wedding. Her daughters approached me, 3 6-year-olds who loved their mother so much they asked a complete stranger to pretend to be their father for one evening so she wouldn't feel lonely. That kind of love doesn't come from neglect. It comes from a woman who's given everything to raise extraordinary children, alone."
Derek's lawyer stood. Your Honor, this is character testimony, not relevant evidence. I'm getting to relevant evidence. Marcus kept his voice level. I've spent 6 months watching Emma work herself to exhaustion to provide for her daughters. I've offered financial help repeatedly. She's refused every time because her pride, her independence, her determination to support her family on her own terms matter more than the easy path. The petition claims she's prioritizing our relationship over parenting. The truth is, she almost ended our relationship multiple times because she prioritizes her daughters over everything, including her own happiness. Emma was crying silently, tears streaming unchecked. The judge watched Marcus with sharpened attention, reading between practiced legal neutrality. Mr. Davis abandoned these children when they were 6 months old. Marcus looked directly at Derek for the first time, seeing calculation and greed instead of parental concern. He's provided nothing, offered nothing, participated in nothing for 6 years. This petition isn't about custody. It's about money. My money, specifically. Derek's lawyer objected strenuously. The judge overruled, leaning forward. Explain. Mr. Davis learned about my relationship with Ms. Hayes through social media. Suddenly, after 6 years of absence, he wants partial custody. His petition requests back child support calculated from birth. 6 years of support he never provided, now claimed because he assumes I'll pay to make this go away. Marcus pulled documents from his jacket, investigator reports his security team had compiled. His lawyer's retainer was paid by a loan secured against anticipated settlement. This isn't about fatherhood. It's extortion. The courtroom erupted. Derek's lawyer demanding sanctions, Emma's public defender scrambling to process information that transformed their case, Derek himself red-faced and sputtering denials. The judge gavelled for order, took the documents Marcus offered, read with expression growing progressively darker. These are serious allegations, Mr. Blackwood. I have documentation, financial records, communications between Mr. Davis and his lawyer discussing settlement amounts, loan applications that explicitly cite expected custody payout. Derek stood, shouting about lies and manipulation, his lawyer trying desperately to regain control. The judge cut through chaos with voice that allowed no argument. Mr. Davis, sit down. Counsel, approach the bench. Now. Sidebar lasted 15 minutes. Whispered arguments Marcus couldn't hear but could read in body language. Derek's lawyer went from aggressive to defensive to quietly desperate. Emma's public defender looked stunned, unprepared for her case to transform from struggling defense to potential victory. The judge returned to the bench with expression suggesting she'd waded through sewage and found it personally offensive. Having reviewed Mr. Blackwood's documentation and heard counsel's arguments, I'm denying Mr. Davis's petition with prejudice. Derek exploded, his lawyer trying to quiet him while simultaneously looking for exit strategies. The judge continued over objections. Furthermore, I'm finding that this petition was filed in bad faith for purposes of financial extortion. Ms. Hayes, you retain full custody. Mr. Davis, you're ordered to pay Ms. Hayes's legal costs and barred from filing future petitions without substantial evidence of changed circumstances. This court does not look favorably on parents who abandon children, then weaponize the legal system for profit. The gavel came down with finality. Emma collapsed in her chair, crying too hard to stand. Marcus wanted to go to her, hold her, share this victory, but protocol kept him seated while the court processed paperwork. Derek left surrounded by security, threats streaming from him about appeals and revenge, words that meant nothing against legal ruling.
His lawyer followed, looking professionally destroyed, reputation damaged beyond easy repair.
Emma finally reached Marcus in the hallway, threw herself into his arms with force that nearly knocked him over, crying into his shoulder while people streamed past.
"You saved them! You saved my girls!"
"We saved them," Marcus corrected. "Your strength, their love, all of us together." Tyler appeared with Lily, Grace, and Violet, Mrs. Chen having brought them from the waiting area. The children surrounded their parents, creating a barrier against a world that had tried to separate them, choosing each other with the fierce finality only children could manage. Marcus looked at the six of them, thought about board meetings and corporate demands, about the price of total commitment to anything less than this messy, beautiful, complicated life. The choice had never really been difficult. He just needed time to understand that success looked different than he'd been taught. Emma pulled back enough to look at him, mascara smeared, eyes red, more beautiful than anything Marcus had seen. "I'm sorry I pushed you away. I'm sorry I made this harder than it needed to be. I'm sorry I let fear make me choose wrong. I'm sorry I almost lost this because I couldn't balance a checkbook and a heart." "So what now?" Emma's voice carried exhaustion and hope in equal measure. Marcus thought about his mother's continued disapproval, about board meetings and corporate pressure, about the million complications still waiting to be navigated. He looked at their children, at the life they'd accidentally built through determination and dumb luck, at the woman who taught him that love was worth every risk. Now we keep choosing each other. Every day, every argument, every time fear tells us to run. We choose this. Violet tugged on Marcus's sleeve, demanding attention with the insistence of 6-year-olds everywhere. "Does this mean we're really a family now? Like, officially?" Marcus knelt so he was eye level with all 4 children, Emma's hand finding his shoulder, grounding touch that anchored him. "Yeah, sweetheart. Officially. All of us together." The courthouse steps felt like descending from battle into sunshine, all 6 of them walking out, hand in hand, choosing each other against every logical argument why they shouldn't. Marcus's phone buzzed with messages from the board, from his mother, from a life that demanded attention. He turned it off without reading them. Some choices deserved complete focus, undivided commitment to what actually mattered. The corporate world would still be there tomorrow. His family needed him now. The week after the custody hearing passed in the blur of adrenaline crash and delayed trauma. Emma functioned on autopilot, going through motions of work and parenting, while her brain processed how close she'd come to catastrophe. The girls were safe, legally protected. Derek's threats neutralized. But the fear didn't evaporate with the judge's ruling. It lingered in her bloodstream, manifesting in middle-of-the-night panic where she checked their beds obsessively, making sure all 3 were still breathing, still present, still hers. Marcus found her at 3 a.m. on Thursday, standing in the girl's doorway counting sleeping forms like a miser checking inventory. He didn't say anything, just wrapped arms around her from behind, anchored her to present reality instead of nightmare scenarios. "They're okay." Emma whispered it like a prayer, requiring constant repetition. "They're okay. He can't take them." "He can't take them," Marcus confirmed, chin resting on top of her head. "The ruling has legal force. It's over." But trauma didn't respect legal rulings. Emma startled at unexpected noises, flinched when the mail arrived, checked her phone compulsively for messages from lawyers that would never come. Sleep became sporadic. Appetite disappeared. The hospital supervisor took one look at her and mandated 2 weeks medical leave whether Emma wanted it or not. "You're no good to patients in this condition. Go home, rest, actually process what happened instead of running from it." Marcus took the medical leave as licensed to implement a plan Emma didn't have energy to fight. He showed up at her apartment Friday morning with suitcases and Tyler, announced they were staying until Emma stopped looking like someone expecting disaster to strike any moment. "You can't just move in." "Watch me." Marcus deposited Tyler's bag in the living room with finality. "Your couch folds out. Tyler and I can manage. You need someone here, and I'm volunteering." Emma wanted to argue about independence and boundaries and all the principles that had governed her survival. But standing in her small apartment with Marcus looking at her like she mattered more than corporate empires, with Tyler already unpacking toys to share with the girls, resistance crumbled. She was so tired of being strong alone. "Okay, but you're cooking. I can't handle food right now." Marcus's cooking ranged from barely edible to outright disasters, culinary skills inversely proportional to his business acumen. He burned pasta, somehow made scrambled eggs rubbery, created grilled cheese that was simultaneously raw and charred. The children ate with diplomatic silence, pushing food around plates, making Emma laugh for the first time in days. "This is terrible," Tyler stage whispered to the girls. "Don't eat the vegetables. He does something weird to them." "I can hear you," Marcus pointed a spatula with mock offense. "Constructive criticism is welcome. Mutiny is not." "It's not mutiny if we're being honest." Lily's logic was unassailable. "Mama says honesty is always the right choice. Your mama's teaching you to be tiny critics." Grace studied her plate with scientific precision. "I think the chicken is supposed to be white, not brown and black. It's caramelized. It's cremated," Rose corrected with vocabulary beyond her years. The banter helped, normalcy seeping back through terrible dinners and children's brutal honesty. Marcus handled school runs with the same intensity he brought to board meetings, studying dismissal procedures, learning teacher names, memorizing which backpack belonged to which identical girl. He attended Tyler's soccer practice and sat through Violet's piano lesson, asked intelligent questions about recital preparation, took notes like corporate minutes. Emma watched him navigate her world with humility that made her chest ache. This was Marcus Blackwood, CEO worth more than entire city blocks, sitting on elementary school benches meant for parents half his net worth, cheering for children's clumsy attempts at athletics and music like they were Olympic performances. The board demanded his return Tuesday morning, emails and calls escalating from polite requests to thinly veiled threats. Marcus read them during Lily's bedtime story, deleted without responding, turned his phone completely off when Grace needed help with homework. Wednesday's emergency board meeting happened without him. Richard called 17 times. Margaret left a voicemail suggesting Marcus had abandoned professional responsibility. His assistant texted updates about decisions made in his absence, partnerships potentially dissolving, investors getting nervous. Marcus forwarded everything to his lawyer, instructed her to prepare resignation papers, went back to helping Violet build a blanket fort with engineering specifications that made the 6-year-old laugh until she hiccuped. Thursday morning, Richard appeared at Emma's apartment unannounced, impeccably suited, expression combining concern and calculation. "Marcus, we need to talk." "I'm busy." Marcus stood in the doorway, blocking entry, morning coffee in hand, wearing sweatpants that had never seen a boardroom. "You can schedule something for next month." "The company is falling apart without you." "Then maybe the company needs to learn to function without requiring total human sacrifice." Marcus's voice stayed level, but steel underneath made Richard step back slightly. I gave 15 years of my life to building an empire. I'm taking time for my family. You'll survive. The board is prepared to force your resignation. Then they should do it. Marcus set down his coffee with deliberate care. I was planning to resign anyway. You've just saved me the paperwork. Richard's composure cracked, carefully constructed authority fragmenting. You built this company from nothing. You're walking away? I'm walking toward something better. Marcus glanced back into the apartment where Emma made breakfast, children arguing about cartoon choices, life happening in messy, beautiful chaos. Something that matters more than quarterly profits. That woman has destroyed your judgment. Marcus's expression went cold, CEO persona sliding into place with precision that made Richard physically retreat. That woman saved my life. She and her daughters gave me reasons to be human again, instead of just a corporate machine. If you can't understand that, you never deserved the position I gave you. Richard left without another word, footsteps echoing down the stairwell like retreating artillery. Marcus closed the door, leaned against it, felt the weight of a life deliberately abandoned settling into something that might eventually become relief. Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, spatula in hand, expression unreadable. Did you just quit your job? Effectively. Because of me. Because of us. Marcus crossed to her, took the spatula, set it aside so he could hold her hands. Because I almost lost this, trying to balance everything. And I'm done pretending I can serve two masters. You and the kids aren't a distraction from my real life. You are my real life. Emma's eyes filled, tears that had been building all week finally spilling over. I don't know how to be worth that sacrifice. It's not sacrifice. It's choice. I'm choosing the life I want instead of the one I thought I was supposed to have. The board meeting reconvened that afternoon without Marcus, emergency session to discuss leadership transition. His assistant called with updates. Marcus listened to on speaker while building block towers with Violet. Richard proposed himself as interim CEO. Margaret suggested opening external search. Younger board members argued the company couldn't function without Marcus's vision. The vote came down to resignation or return. Binary choice that allowed no middle ground. Marcus listened to his assistant explain how the room had divided, factions forming, years of corporate relationships straining under pressure. Then something unexpected happened. The junior members staged what amounted to a coup, proposing new terms Marcus hadn't requested. Flexible schedule, remote work options, family leave policies that applied to executives, the acknowledgement that sustainable success required actual sustainability, that burning out leadership served no one. The vote passed narrowly, board restructuring their demands around keeping Marcus rather than losing him entirely. His assistant's voice carried surprise verging on shock. They're offering whatever you need. Just come back. Marcus looked around Emma's small apartment, at toys scattered across floors, at the girls teaching Tyler some elaborate hand-clapping game, at Emma watching him with hope and fear in equal measure. Tell them I'll think about it. He ended the call, turned to Emma. They're offering compromises. Part-time, work from home, actual boundaries. Do you want to go back? Marcus considered the question honestly. The company had been his identity for 15 years, the thing that defined him after Sarah died, the metric by which he measured worth. Walking away felt like amputation, but staying had nearly cost him everything.
I want balance. Real balance, not the corporate version where balance means working from home instead of the office. His hands found Emma's, grounding touch. I want to build something, but not at the expense of this. Then build both.
Emma's voice carried certainty Marcus didn't feel. You're brilliant at what you do. That doesn't disappear because you also want a family. Just do it differently. The solution materialized over the next week, negotiations handled through lawyers and structured around non-negotiable terms. Marcus would return part-time, mentor Richard into full partnership, transition from sole leadership to collaborative model. Boundaries would be enforced. Family came first. The company would adapt, or Marcus would walk. No hesitation, no guilt. The board accepted terms they never would have considered before, recognition that Marcus's value exceeded traditional metrics. He returned to work the following Monday, 4 hours a day, home by 3 for school pickup, evenings reserved for homework and bedtime stories, and the small daily tasks that constituted actual living. Helen showed up at Emma's apartment on Tuesday evening, unannounced but not unexpected. Marcus had mentioned his mother's increasing coldness, her disapproval manifesting in silence that spoke volumes. Emma braced for confrontation, ready to defend territory hard-won. But Helen arrived with humility Emma hadn't anticipated, standing in the doorway with expression combining regret and determination. "May I come in?" Emma stepped aside wordlessly, gesturing to the worn couch. Helen sat with careful precision, hands folded, posture suggesting this cost her pride dearly. "I owe you an apology. Several apologies." Helen's voice stayed steady through obvious discomfort. "I've been cruel, unfair. I've treated you like a threat when you've been the best thing to happen to Marcus and Tyler in 3 years. Emma said nothing, letting silence create space for words Helen clearly needed to say. "Sarah was my daughter-in-law for 10 years. I loved her like my own child. When she died, I thought Marcus's happiness died with her. I was wrong." Helen met Emma's eyes directly, mother to mother, woman to woman. "You remind me of Sarah in ways that matter. Not appearance or background, but the important things. Strength, kindness, the ability to love fully, despite knowing it can be lost." Tears pricked Emma's eyes, guards lowering against honesty delivered without armor. "I'm not trying to replace her. I know that now. Marcus helped me understand that hearts don't replace. They expand. He loves Sarah still, will always love her. And he loves you completely. Those truths coexist without contradiction." Helen's composure wavered. "I've been holding grief so tightly, I couldn't see life happening around me. You've given my son and grandson reasons to live instead of just exist. That's a gift I don't have words to adequately thank you for." Emma crossed to the couch, sat beside Helen with the careful proximity of people building bridges across painful gaps. "Sarah made him promise to live again. That's what he told me. She gave permission. I'm just helping him actually use. Then Sarah was wiser than I gave her credit for." Helen pulled something from her purse, small velvet box, worn soft with age. "This was Sarah's engagement ring. Marcus wanted to buy you something new, something that represented your relationship. But I think Sarah would want you to have this, not as replacement, but as continuation. One woman who loved Marcus, passing something precious to the next." The ring inside was simple gold with a modest diamond, elegant without ostentation, the kind of beauty that came from meaning rather than monetary value. Emma stared at it,
throat too tight for words, understanding the weight of what Helen offered. I can't accept this. You can and should. Marcus will propose soon. Anyone with eyes can see that. When he does, this ring should be part of it. Sarah's blessing on whatever comes next. Helen pressed the box into Emma's hands. Please, let me do this one thing right.
Emma held the box carefully, feeling the history it contained, the love it represented, the future it pointed toward. Thank you. For this, for your apology, for being brave enough to change your mind. Thank you for being patient with a stubborn old woman who almost destroyed something beautiful because she couldn't let go of what was lost. Helen stood, straightened her coat, prepared to leave. Then she turned back, vulnerability breaking through practiced composure. May I be part of this? The wedding, the family, whatever you're building? I don't want to miss Tyler growing up, or the chance to know your daughters. I've wasted enough time on grief. Emma stood, crossed the distance, hugged Helen with the fierceness of someone who understood exactly how much courage this required. You're already part of this. You're Marcus's mother, Tyler's grandmother. That makes you family whether we formalize it or not. Helen left with tears on her face and something approaching peace in her expression. Emma stood in the doorway holding Sarah's ring, feeling the weight of blessing from a woman she'd never met, but whose legacy shaped everything. The snowstorm hit Chicago on Friday evening, weather forecasters having predicted it for days with escalating urgency. Schools closed early, offices sent people home. The city hunkered down against winter showing its teeth. Marcus made it to Emma's apartment just as the first serious flake started falling, Tyler and overnight bags in tow. Looks like we're staying the weekend. The children accepted this pronouncement with enthusiastic chaos, immediately planning snow forts and movie marathons, arguing about hot chocolate ratios and blanket fort architecture. Marcus and Emma watched their energy with the tired amusement of adults who'd learned to pick battles strategically. By 8 p.m., then all 4 children had crashed from sugar and excitement, sprawled across Emma's living room in a tangle of blankets and pillows that would be impossible to navigate later. Marcus and Emma sat on the couch with the last of the hot chocolate, watching snow accumulate against windows, transforming the city into something clean and new. This feels like that first night, Emma said it quietly, not wanting to break the spell. The wedding, snow falling, everything changing. Best night of my life, before this became every night. Marcus set down his mug, turned to face her fully. Emma, I need to ask you something. Her breath caught, recognition flooding through her. This moment had been building for months, inevitable as seasons, terrifying as anything she'd ever faced. Marcus slid from the couch to one knee on her worn carpet, pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, opened it to reveal Sarah's ring catching lamplight. Emma's hands covered her mouth, tears already streaming. I thought my story ended when Sarah died. Thought the best chapters were behind me, that I was just waiting out the remaining pages until my own ending. His voice stayed steady, despite emotion roughening the edges. 4 little matchmakers showed me I was wrong. Showed me that stories don't end. They transform. New chapters begin from places we don't expect. The children stirred slightly, Tyler's eyes cracking open, the girls shifting just enough to indicate they were listening, despite pretending sleep. Marcus smiled, acknowledging their eavesdropping, continuing anyway. Emma Hayes, you've taught me that loving again doesn't erase the past. It honors it by choosing to live fully. You've shown me that strength looks like working 2 jobs to keep your daughters safe. That grace
looks like forgiving people who judged you unfairly. That courage looks like letting someone help when every instinct says to handle everything alone. Emma could barely see through tears, but she felt the moment in her bones, the rightness of it, despite every logical argument why this shouldn't work. Will you marry me? Will you let me love you and your incredible daughters? Will you let Tyler call you mom? Will you build this messy, beautiful, complicated life with me? The yes formed before conscious thought, before fear could intervene, before any of the million reasons to hesitate could find voice. Yes, God, yes. I choose us. I choose this messy, beautiful life we're building together. Marcus slid the ring onto her finger with hands that trembled slightly, pulled her close, kissed her with the kind of certainty that erased every doubt. The children erupted from their pretend sleep, shrieking joy loud enough to disturb neighbors, piling onto the couch in a tangle of excitement. Tyler's face shone with happiness that made him look younger than 8, pure and uncomplicated. So I get 3 sisters and a mom? Officially? Officially. Emma pulled him into the group embrace, this boy who'd lost his mother and found another, who taught her that motherhood expanded rather than replaced. If you want me. I've wanted you since the wedding. Tyler's honesty was casual, stating obvious facts. I told Dad you were perfect for us. I was right. Lily extracted herself enough to see the ring properly, examining it with the eye of someone planning future elaborate events. We did it! We found Mama a husband! Best project ever! I can't believe it actually worked. Rose's practicality couldn't quite suppress wonder. We just asked a stranger to pretend, and now he's going to be our daddy. Violet touched the ring gently, reverent. Can we be flower girls? Please say we can be flower girls. We've been practicing walking slowly. Emma laughed through tears, overwhelmed by children's ability to find joy in everything, to make complicated situations simple through sheer force of want. You can absolutely be flower girls, all 3 of you. You orchestrated this whole thing. You deserve to participate. The night dissolved into planning chaos, children throwing out increasingly elaborate ideas while Marcus and Emma exchanged glances over their heads, anchored to reality despite the madness. Small wedding, family only, something that honored what they were building without pretense or pressure. Morning arrived with the city buried under 2 feet of snow, pristine and unmarked, schools and businesses closed, the world paused. The children, bundled into borrowed winter gear, rushed outside to make snow angels and wage snowball wars that required extensive strategic planning. Marcus and Emma stood at the window watching, engaged, ring warm against her finger, the future spreading before them, uncertain, but chosen. Your mother gave me Sarah's ring. Did you know? I hoped she would. She called yesterday, said she was trying to do something right for once. Marcus's arms wrapped around Emma from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. How do you feel about it? Like I'm holding something precious. Like Sarah trusted me with the next part of the story. Like this is all real in ways I'm still processing. Emma turned in his arms, looked up at the man who changed everything by saying yes to 3 little girls. Are we insane? Getting married after 8 months? Completely insane. Marcus kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips with deliberate slowness. But I'd rather be insane with you than sane and alone. I spent 3 years being sensible and safe. It was terrible. This is better. The wedding planning happened in stolen moments between work and parenting, decisions made quickly and without the stress Emma had associated with weddings from watching friends agonize over details. Small ceremony in Emma's parents' backyard. Intimate guest list under 40 people. food catered by her father's favorite barbecue place, flowers from the local shop, music from a friend who played guitar at church. Tyler insisted on being best man despite his age, taking the responsibility with seriousness that made Emma's heart melt. The girls practiced walking slowly with the dedication of people preparing for performance art, trailing fabric behind them as imaginary trains, arguing about proper pedal scattering technique. Marcus handled logistics with the efficiency that made him successful in business, applied to wedding planning with results that were simultaneously touching and slightly terrifying. He created spreadsheets, color-coded timelines, contingency plans for weather, food, music. Emma watched him operate with bemused affection, this man who brought corporate intensity to celebrating love.
6 months passed in blur of preparation and normal life. Children growing, relationship deepening, the reality of blended family asserting itself in ways both challenging and rewarding. They fought about discipline styles, about homework standards, about bedtimes and screen time, and the 1,000 small decisions that constituted parenting. And they learned to compromise, to bend instead of break, to choose each other even when choosing felt difficult. The wedding day arrived wrapped in late spring sunshine. Emma's parents' backyard transformed with white chairs and simple flower arrangements, intimate space for people who mattered. Emma stood in her childhood bedroom with her mother fastening her dress, the girls in matching lavender surrounding her like a pastel honor guard. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." Her mother's voice wavered with emotion earned through years of watching Emma struggle alone. "I'm so happy you found someone who deserves you." Emma studied herself in the mirror, seeing not the struggling single mom, but a woman loved, chosen, worthy of celebration. The dress was simple white, nothing elaborate, purchased on sale but altered to fit perfectly. Sarah's ring on her finger caught light, blessing from the past anchoring her to the future. Lily adjusted her own dress for the 1,000th time, nervous energy barely contained. "Is it time yet? I've been waiting forever." "Forever is 30 minutes," Emma corrected, but gently. "We're almost ready." Tyler knocked on the door, tuxedo making him look impossibly grown up, hair slicked back in a style that probably wouldn't last through photographs. "Dad's ready. Everyone's ready. Can we start now?" The ceremony happened in a blur of emotional intensity. Emma walking down the makeshift aisle on her father's arm, seeing Marcus at the front with expression that made her breath catch. Love stripped of pretense, vulnerability without armor, choosing her in front of everyone. Tyler stood beside his father, ring box held carefully, importance of his role evident in rigid posture. The girls preceded Emma, scattering petals with the kind of intense focus usually reserved for diffusing explosives, walking slowly, exactly as practiced. The officiant, Emma's childhood pastor, spoke about second chances and blended families, about love that heals old wounds while honoring old scars. But Emma barely heard the words, focused entirely on Marcus, on the man who'd said yes to an insane request and changed everything. The vows Marcus had written made Emma cry, despite her determination to keep makeup intact. "You taught me that loving again doesn't erase the past. It honors it by choosing to live fully. You showed me that hearts can expand, that Tyler could have a mother without me forgetting his mother. You proved that strength looks different than I'd been taught, that independence and accepting help aren't contradictory. Emma, you saved my life. You saved Tyler's life. You let us save yours. I promise to spend every remaining day earning that trust." Emma's vows were simpler, but no less meaningful. "I thought love had abandoned me permanently, that Derek leaving meant I wasn't worth staying for.
You taught me that I'm worthy of a love that stays, that fights for us instead of running when things get hard. Marcus, you showed up when I needed you most, and you've kept showing up every day since. I promise to keep choosing you, keep being brave enough to accept the love you're offering, keep building this family we've accidentally created. The officiant turned to the children, improvising inclusion that hadn't been rehearsed.
Tyler, Lily, Grace, Violet, do you accept this marriage? Do you choose to be a family together? 4 voices rang out in unison, loud enough to startle birds from nearby trees.
We do!
The laughter that followed released tension, turned ceremony into celebration, reminded everyone this was about joy as much as legal binding. The kiss happened to cheers and wolf whistles, Tyler and the girls making exaggerated gagging noises that made the adults laugh harder. The reception flowed naturally from ceremony, no formal separation, just movement from chairs to tables, food appearing with casual efficiency. Marcus and Emma's first dance happened to the same song from the wedding where they'd met, familiar melody carrying them back to the beginning while anchoring them to now. Tyler cut in halfway through with the confidence of someone who'd planned this intervention. "Can I dance with Emma? With Mom?" The title came out uncertain, testing, hoping. Emma's vision blurred as she took Tyler's small hands, let him stand on her feet like his sisters had at that first wedding.
I'd be honored to dance with my son. Thanks for being my mom.
Tyler said it quietly, meant only for her.
I missed my first mom, but I'm really glad I get a second one.
The girls claimed Marcus next, all 3 simultaneously, creating chaos that required Marcus to somehow dance with triplets while maintaining balance. They giggled through the entire song, standing on his feet, demanding to be twirled, turning the moment into something both ridiculous and perfect. Helen appeared at Emma's elbow during cake cutting, the older woman's presence having shifted from threatening to supportive over the past months.
Sarah would be happy. I see that now. She'd love these girls, love watching Tyler have siblings, love knowing you made Marcus human again.
Emma squeezed Helen's hand, gratitude for blessing hard-won.
Thank you for accepting us.
For being brave enough to change your mind. It means everything. The evening dissolved into the kind of celebration that happened when formality gave way to genuine joy. Children running wild, adults laughing too loud, the constraints of wedding propriety abandoned in favor of actual enjoyment. Emma's father attempted to teach Marcus the electric slide with results that were both terrible and hilarious. The girls performed an elaborate dance they'd apparently been choreographing for months, requiring costume changes and dramatic lighting. When the sun set and fairy lights came on, when the last piece of cake had been eaten and coffee had been drunk, Marcus and Emma stood on the edge of the gathering, watching their assembled families blend and mix, children playing regardless of whose blood ran through their veins. "We did it." Emma leaned into Marcus, exhaustion and satisfaction mixing into something profound. "We actually pulled this off. We're married. The hard part starts now." But Marcus was smiling, the words carrying no weight of dread. "Bring it on. I've survived worse than domestic bliss." 2 years later, Marcus stood in the backyard of the house they'd bought together, watching Tyler teach the girls how to throw a football. 10 and 8 now, growing so fast it made his chest ache. Emma appeared beside him, hand resting on the swell of her pregnant belly.
They're plotting something.
She nodded toward where all 4 children had their heads together, whispering with the particular intensity that meant trouble. Marcus wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulled her close. They're always plotting something. That's their baseline state.
Remember when this all started? 3 little girls asking a stranger to pretend? Best, worst idea they ever had. Marcus kissed her temple. Though I've stopped thinking of it as pretending. When did it become real? Somewhere between the first dance and Tyler calling you Mom. Or maybe it was always real. We just needed time to catch up to what they already knew. Snow began to fall. First flakes of another Chicago winter.
The children shrieked, faces turned skyward, catching flakes on their tongues. Tyler grabbed Lily's hand, then Grace's, then Violet's, creating a chain as they spun in circles. Emma leaned into Marcus, watched their children dance in falling snow, creating memories that would anchor them through whatever came next. No more pretending. No more hiding from happiness because loss might follow. Just this. Just them. Just the beautiful, messy, impossible family they'd chosen. I'm glad you said yes, Emma whispered. I'm glad 3 tiny matchmakers wouldn't take no for an answer.